Hey crew, welcome back to Uncinched Confessions. We left you on a bit of a hanger there, and we wanted to give you the second released episode of our Uncinched Confessions talking about perception changes.
Yes, so if you listened to our last episode, we went through your submissions where we talked about horse experiences that changed your perception, and lucky for us, we got an absolute enormous influx once again, and we wanted to put all of them into the next episode. So here's the next episode. Continue listening if you guys enjoyed the previous episode. This is going to be more unique experiences that changed people's perceptions. It might be yours. So we hope you enjoy, and thank you again for listening. Without further ado, here is part 2 of the Uncinched Confessions, experiences that changed your perception.
All right, let's get into it.
Okay, this person says, I was competing a couple years ago in hunter seat only as a hobby rider. The system was you drew a horse and had only around 2 minutes to get to know them before riding the show. What?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay. One time, the horse I drew was completely out of it. It was obvious that he didn't want anything to do with me or the show. However, I and my trainer thought it wasn't so bad, so I went for it. Needless to say, the horse wanted to run away with it the whole time. He got too close to kicking a horse, got bucked on, and started galloping and bucking around. In that moment, I felt such a strong empathy for that horse. It must have been so crazy, stressful for him to be in an enclosed arena with a whole crowd around, a bunch of horses he didn't know, and being asked to perform things by a complete stranger. I couldn't stop him, so I jumped off and was out with a concussion for 2 weeks after that.
Oh.
Apart from a couple trail rides, I had not ridden for 6 years after this.
Oof.
Then I moved back to my home country and started riding with the trainer who taught me how to ride as a child. I've been getting back to riding gradually, but very slowly, and nurturing this deep empathy for horses, trying my best to speak their language, listen to them, and respect them deeply. And cherry on top, I bought my first horse yesterday.
Oh, congrats.
She's a total angel, but also has a funky personality, meaning I would need to ask her clearly for what I like and listen to how she responds. I now think being with horses and riding is a two-way communication thing rather than a performance-oriented sport. I don't think I will ever compete again. I'm here for joy rides and for the years and years to come. Also, I would have never imagined after my accident that I would be near horses, let alone own one. I love these surprises in life. I see a theme a lot, like, you know, you have this kind of traumatic experience, or you have something kind of big happen, or, you know, a horse acts out.
Are horses and have
thoughts and feelings and consciousness, and that we can't just take from them. And, you know, there's a lot of horses out there who are so benevolent and who will let you jump on their back and do absolutely everything on them. You know, there's lots of horses out there, but it's the ones who are the unruly ones and the ones who feel confident enough in themselves to say no that oftentimes
teach us.
Give us the biggest statement. I can't remember what the quote was exactly, but it's kind of resonated with me for a long time because I've dealt with a lot of spicy, unruly creatures in my day. But it's like the most difficult horse often has the biggest lessons to teach you. And I think the ones that you get tossed off the most, or the ones that say no to you the most, you can go down two paths. You can either, throw in the towel and say, this isn't for me, or you have to work on your communication skills. And
question why they're saying no.
You have to ask questions, and you have to look in the mirror and realize, okay, what am I doing that's causing this? And then also look at it from the horse's perspective. Like, maybe a handful of horses would be okay with an absolute stranger going on them in a show environment, especially, but, you know,
This particular one wasn't.
And
Or maybe there was something going on with that horse. Like, that's
Mhm.
the first thing that I thought of, to be honest, is my first impression when I was listening to it. I said, oh, okay, so they would have probably not put a horse that normally is crazy into that situation.
Yeah.
Or I should hope not anyways. Something might have been like it was sore, it wasn't feeling good, maybe had an ulcer, stuff like this, that caused it to just be really, really uncomfortable, and it was just reacting.
Mm-hmm.
And also when she's like, you only get 2 minutes to know this horse, it's something that I think we see fairly often, where it's like, I'm just going to go ride this horse that I've never met and expect it to do everything I ask, and everything's going to work out great. And while yes, it can also not.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I like think of directly that I can kind of relate to is that I can't jump on a horse after knowing it for a few minutes and be able to ride well. And that's not because the horse is doing anything wrong, and not necessarily because I'm doing anything wrong. I am a disabled rider. I have to ride a little bit differently. My cues are a little different. My right leg is always on. I can't help that. And so it can be confusing at first. And often it takes me like a good 30 to 35, 40 minutes to actually be able to have a proper, conversation with that horse to explain what I'm actually asking from it. Because sometimes I want to just do a long trot, They're thinking I'm asking for a canter because that leg's swinging, and then they're like, you want me to go faster?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, no, I actually don't. And so sometimes we have to have those like conversations, and it's not because that horse is not listening properly. It doesn't understand what I'm asking because I'm different from its last rider.
Mm-hmm.
I'm different from maybe the way it was trained. And I think we really need to remember that more as horse riders and as the horse community, that sometimes we're asking things differently than from what they know.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're just getting on a horse and you have 2 minutes to do it, half the time you're not going to do your best performance.
Mm-hmm.
And it just happens. And it doesn't mean you're a bad horse person, doesn't mean the horse is bad. It just means you haven't figured out that sweet spot.
Yeah. You haven't found the best way to communicate with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I really like that one. And I like how the happy ending.
Bought our own horse.
Yeah, you got your own horse. That's very
exciting.
Sweet. Very, very sweet.
Super exciting.
Okay. Next one.
Alrighty. Actually experiencing the difference in behaviors after fixing the things that were causing my horse pain.
Ooh. We were just talking about this.
Yeah, I like this already. Seeing her go from cranky, balking, bucking, to happy, soft, and forward. I found buttons I didn't know she had. The bad manners like biting and refusing to stand quietly that were the result of experiencing pain from things like the saddle and mounting. They still happen sometimes, but with lots of time and patience, they're going away because she's slowly figuring out that they don't hurt her like they used to. Used to take me 20 minutes to get on this horse. Now it takes about 30 seconds. She's way less anxious, she's way less buddy sour, and suddenly so brave. And now it makes me look at other horses from my past in a whole different light, and I can recognize behaviors that I didn't understand then. When I was a kid, hardly anyone talked about their horses having ulcers. That was for thoroughbreds and barrel racers, and the barrel racers were probably just being paranoid because their horse ran a second too slow. But we know now that ulcers are very common and a super frequent cause of behavioral problems. And I guarantee I can name at least one horse from my past that had them. But I didn't realize it then. I understand the communication that was happening now, and I wish I knew how to speak horse like I do now.
I love that one. So true. And yeah, like it's been a kind of reoccurring theme, when a horse is doing something, they're not necessarily doing it because they want to be bad.
Mm-hmm.
We often automatically go to that, like, oh, they're being defiant, or they're being an asshole, they're being this, they're being that. But kind of remembering that, if you were sore and you were getting asked to do things on your sore side, or you were getting weight put on you or you're asked to exercise, like, you'd probably start acting up too, right?
Yep. This is something I actually say a lot when I've done speaking engagements and stuff like this, and I think we've talked about it often. If your horse has to get big to tell you something's wrong, you're doing it wrong, because it puts you and them in danger and at a disadvantage, because what they learn is you will not listen to the small things of like, oh, I'm wincing, that I'm sore, I'm having a slight limp, but you keep pushing it. One, you can wreck them and make something that was repairable or a small issue that could have been fixed really fast into a very prolonged issue that now takes you months, maybe years to fix, or you can never fix because they've learned this is how I need to communicate. And especially with my profession and what I do, there are more times than not that when a horse is out of control or aggressive and bad, it's most often when I see it, like I would say 95% of the time, is not because they're bad horses, it's because their back hurts. Something's going wrong in their back end. Their jaw is so tight. Like there's an actual physical thing that I can find and go, well, this is this, and all of a sudden they open up or they settle out. And I've had times where people are like, oh wow, he went from being like nuts to just chill. And it's like, well, yeah, he had a headache because his teeth were so bad or whatever it was. And so I really encourage you as listeners and as horse people and horse communities to really evaluate what's going on and always ask the question of, why did this behavior come up? What is causing this? Just like, ulcers. And I think ulcers are very common in horses that have high functioning anxiety, essentially. So yeah, I think this was great. I like that this one kind of does talk about pain and not just like, I learned they're intuitive. I learned that they sometimes communicate pain through behavior.
Very cool. Okay. All right, this next person says, I leased a horse that was in its mid-teens to learn dressage on. He was lovely, safe, and never did anything naughty. One day he started bucking when I asked for canter transitions. I told my trainer about it, and she immediately had the vet out to give him a full exam.
Okay, pause. Don't tell me what happens, but I'm going to take a guess at why he was doing that. So if he was doing a trot to canter and it's a male horse and it came out of nowhere, I'm guessing he had a gelding scar. I'm curious.
Okay. Turns out he had the beginnings of DSLD.
Oh.
And we had to retire him. What is DSLD?
Degenerative suspensory ligament desmatitis.
Oh, desmatitis. Wow. So turns out he had the beginnings of degenerative suspensory ligament
desmatitis.
This Mike Tyson.
For anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's a progressive connective tissue disorder that mainly affects a suspensory ligament.
Okay. So he had the beginnings of this disorder and we had to retire him.
Aww.
I think about this experience a lot because it fundamentally changed how I perceive naughty behavior in horses. Some of my previous trainers would have said to just ride through it because the horse was just acting out. I can't imagine trying to push that horse that had a degenerative tendon disease through a movement because that was causing him very real pain. I see this response so often in the horse world still. Mm-hmm. Horses have behavioral issues, and the first course of action is to get a trainer to ride him through it and not to have a vet rule out the pain. It makes me so sad. Horses communicate with us only in the ways they know how, and it's our duty as equestrians to listen to what they're trying to say. Preach.
Well, yeah, we just
preach.
Exactly said that.
Mm-hmm.
And Yeah, that degenerative suspensory ligament. So a horse's leg is supposed to be kind of standing up and down, and the ligament kind of is at an angle, right? The suspensory ligament. I hope this visual makes sense. And basically, it's almost like it snaps is the best way I can kind of explain it. And now it goes parallel instead of at an angle. And that can be, one, quite painful, and it changes the entire weight of your horse's body and how it's holding itself, which, yeah, like you wouldn't really want to ride too much on that, especially competitively ride or at a very high level consistently. Like that would just be horrifically painful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we talked on it just even from the last one, just how important it is to
listen.
Yep.
To listen.
I'm bad at that.
Listening?
Okay, guys. Exciting news. We got a first hate comment.
Ah! No!
We're officially in the Ethernet. We got one.
Oh, no.
Okay. It says, ugh. Quit mining for your own profit.
Okay.
For anybody who doesn't know, we don't make a lot of money in this yet. But
sorry, we want to listen to your perspective, but it's okay. Thanks for engaging. It helps.
Yeah, we love engagement.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know what else to say, but like, I'm sorry that you feel that way. I think we're just trying to connect with you, and you don't want to connect with us, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But we're gonna keep mining.
Yeah. We're gonna keep mining over here. Sorry.
I'm gonna read the next one now. Okay. One day, I was in the middle of a riding lesson with my horse, and I noticed her mouth was bleeding as I was trying to get her to trot. Oh. Trainer said, "Doesn't matter, she can still trot."
What?
Okay.
Who are all these like trainers?
During that time, it was our second lesson where she had that new bit. Oh, I thought at first it was just her second lesson. I'm like, what? Okay. My trainer had recommended this bit, a slow twist mouthpiece. My trainer had recommended that bit because my horse was getting heavy in the mouth, and I agreed to change bits because I trusted my trainer and knew barely anything about bits. That was the last lesson I took with that trainer. Preach. That day I realized that no matter how many people had told me you need a trainer, you're a first-time owner, a beginner, they'll never know better than you. I think you meant to say they'll know better than you, but okay. It actually wasn't true. I needed to be the trainer. If you own your own horses, you need to learn how to train yourself. So I gave her back that bit and I read up on bits. I looked into them all myself, read articles, talked to other people, went to the horse shops and put them all on my skin and felt them until I got one that I believed to be fair. So yeah, in short, in one lesson I learned that you can't actually recognize a good trainer until you become one yourself, because otherwise you're just trusting the trainer to know better when they don't always do. And I also learned that as a horse owner, you are your horse's only advocate. Learn from your horse, stand up for your horse always. I have like a few opinions of this. Yeah. But I'm going to let you go first.
I think yes, absolutely. You are your horse's voice. If someone is doing something that you don't feel comfortable with, find a new trainer. And like on that comment of like, you can't know what is the wording again?
You can't actually recognize a good trainer until you become one yourself.
I might word that differently. I can kind of agree. You need to be in the saddle to like actually recognize things, like absolutely. And like one of my favorite things that Jill Barron says is whether or not you consider yourself a trainer or not, you're either training
or being trained,
or you're untraining.
Oh, that's a good one.
And I think that kind of puts it into a good perspective on like if every ride you're doing, you're adding value or not, right? So I'm kind of thinking like maybe they're coming from that perspective. Like, yeah, you might not be training professionally or for profit or for other people, but you're still training your horse every time you get on it, for better or for worse. And if you're noticing things are getting better,
Yay.
If not, nay. Yeah, I mean, I agree with this person, and also like kudos to you for, you know, maybe the trainer that you had didn't speak to you, or they didn't make sense to you, or they weren't an ethical trainer in your opinion, but for you to go out and educate yourself and read articles and do all of those things, like, and to do that on your own instead of just relying on somebody, I think that's quite admirable. That, you know, yeah, you may have not had the best person to help you out at the beginning, but you did the best with the resources you had to go out and learn things, and you and your horse are better off for it.
Okay, I have a bit of a different perspective.
Okay.
So, I agree that you need to learn stuff to be able to know where you're kind of standing on things. However, I disagree with when she says, you know, I was a beginner, because she said how many people had told me you need a trainer, you're a first-time owner, and a beginner rider. So, sometimes when we are naive to experiences, we think we can do anything ourselves.
Oh yeah, ignorance is bliss.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And we can actually, kind of similar to what that Jill Barron quote is, like, untrained or trained, you know. And when you're a beginner, you need to recognize that you don't know everything, and most of the time you don't. And I think you can actually cause a lot of harm by thinking you're the expert because you read something on the internet. I am not saying that this trainer did the right thing, and I am absolutely not saying that you didn't do the right thing by removing them from the situation. However, I think it's really, really important not to miss saying that as a beginner you shouldn't be training.
Yeah.
You can learn things, and you can find people to help you grow, but I don't think if you've never really done a lot of work with them or with horses in general that you should be now doing all of it, because there's so many things that you don't know, and not from lack of trying or anything, and
lack
unfortunately
of experience. It's just lack of experience.
Unfortunately you can't read it on the internet. Not everything you read on the internet's true. Not everything you read on the internet will work, and one size doesn't fit all for training methods. And I think it's a very naive take to be like, well, I became the trainer, I needed to be the trainer, and now my horse is good.
And just because one
Sucked.
trainer wasn't good doesn't mean that you were better and then therefore can do everything on your own too. I see where you're coming with that one, and I agree.
The other thing is, like, I think it can take away from the experience that some people can bring to the table, where it's like, oh, well, I read this on the internet, so therefore you're wrong.
Yeah, true.
You know,
I
that's just where I went with it.
I
and
agree.
I might be completely off base, and that may not have been where it was meant to go, but that's the first thing that I thought of. Because I've seen that where I've worked with people where they may have gotten in too deep and gotten themselves into situations where they think they can do it, and I'm watching it and I'm looking at this car crash that's about to happen, and I can't really fix it. Because they think they know more than me, and I'm like, all right, cool. But like I said, I'm not trying to discourage you from finding information or learning or trying to be a better advocate or stronger in the discipline. I just don't think you should rule out that people also know things that may not be on the internet, or may be a better method than what you were looking at, because you lack experience with other options as a beginner, if that makes sense. But that goes for trainers too. You can always learn from another trainer.
Everyone has something to teach you.
Absolutely. Whether it's good or bad.
Whether it's what to do or what not to do.
And also for trainers, I think it's really important to note that, like, if you don't know something, it doesn't mean you're a shitty trainer either. And if you have to ask somebody who has more experience than you, that's not a bad thing. And if you have a trainer that you're working with who goes and says, I need to ask for expertise, that's a green flag, not a red one. Sometimes people think, oh, that means they don't know anything. No, that's a green flag. They are seeking out the best options for your horse. So, amen.
Amen. Okay. All right. This person says, it's not necessarily horses, but owners.
Ooh.
I spent years working at yards and with people who don't cover basic care of their equines and took it all on myself. I broke myself trying to give these horses everything I could. I'd buy basic items for them to replace the shoddy and broken ones that they had, like nets, water buckets, feed buckets, halters, bedding, feed, etc.
Oh, jeez.
So they were comfortable and had the basics. After breaking my own bank and myself, caring for everyone else's animals and being taken for granted, something broke in me. It was triggered by a horse literally running me over. Same.
Oh.
I told the owner he was stressed and something was wrong. They had no turnout for weeks. I was asked to let them in a swamp-like field for 20 minutes to stretch. Lo and behold, they went crazy, broke through the fence, and galloped straight through me. I made sure they were safely confined and then walked off the yard, never to return.
Oh.
This one says, in quotations, bar sorting my own horse out. I moved my horse the following week. Sometimes you can't save them all. People will just use and abuse you, knowing you are a good person. It's heartbreaking, but I can't risk my own safety to keep going above and beyond for everyone else's animals anymore. I will help, but the owner has to take accountability themselves.
Hot take, you shouldn't be paying for somebody else's animal.
Yeah.
I am a huge empath. I get it. I truly get it. But that's what you are describing is compassion fatigue, and it's deadly in these like fields, like veterinary meds, and even what I do, where you're giving everything to your role as a caregiver. And at some point you have to take a step back. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like to me that you were giving yourself nothing and everybody everything mm-hmm. when it was not your responsibility. Mm-hmm. And I totally get where you came from, where you just wanted to make sure that these animals were thriving and okay because, you are a nice animals. Person and you care. But at the same time, like, honey, I'm glad you walked away because you needed to walk away. You were going to destroy yourself and it would have went way worse. And not that I'm saying this is a good thing, but I'm glad that horse ran you over and it gave you that insight. Mm-hmm. I'm obviously not glad that you got hurt,
run over, yeah,
or that it did that, but at least it gave you clarity and perspective. Mm-hmm. And I think it forced you to remove yourself from a toxic situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have any further comments. I agree with you.
All right, sweet. Oh, geez. These are so long, some of these.
I know.
I love it. I wish I was better at reading.
I know. Like, reading comprehension is hard.
I think I was in my late teens, and the natural horsemanship craze was amping up. Pirelli, Lyons, and Monty Roberts were the heroes of the day. Something about their approach still struck me as off, and it wasn't until I saw Monty Roberts working with that racehorse to get him to go into the starting gate that I formulated it for myself. We expect and ask so much of horses all of the time. What your horse needs to know, what your horse needs to do. Your horse needs to respect you at all times. It needs to work. It needs to not be babied and buckled down and do its job and all this other stuff. It needs to obey you the second, in all caps, you ask for something, no matter how slight or it is disrespectful. All the gentler methods to get to that aim are well and good, but it's the same aim that the horse is learning to serve you by becoming non-reactive to things, by standing tied for hours, by quotations, respecting you and expressing no wants of its own. The focus seemed to be on total obedience to one party rather than developing a partnership. No one is stopping to say you need to take some time and let your horse tell you what he's ready to do. You need to respect your horse when he says, stop pushing me right now. I understand there are scenarios that can get fraught quickly if you have a horse that can't be handled for medical treatment or load in a trailer. However, working towards accomplishing those tasks seems to become this race to unquestioning compliancy rather than a process of an understanding and learning. I also understand and believe in correction of behavior that can be dangerous or unsafe, like rushing, crowding, etc. A balanced approach, as not everything works for every horse, etc. I don't know that I had a point other than I've learned that it's more about partnership, enjoying your horse's company, and having a relationship that's safe and rewarding for everyone. I like the ending there.
Yeah.
I don't know if I had a point, but this is what I was saying.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's true, not to cut anybody down, but everyone is going to have their method and their way, and when these names kind of come out and stuff, we want to follow them by like it's the Bible, and their method is the Bible. And yes, methods from these trainers, obviously they work, obviously they've been successful, and that's why they're where they're at. But at the end of the day, it's exactly that. You have to do what works best for you and your horse, and what makes your horse trusts you, and what you feel is ethically right and for you.
Yep. And again, just because their method worked for one horse doesn't mean it works for the next. Mm-hmm. And just because your trainer you use worked for this person doesn't mean it works for the next. Mm-hmm. It's all about
chemistry, and that's
functionality.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You're not going to get along with every person you meet. You're not going to love everybody's ideas and opinions. You take what you can, you learn from that, and you leave the rest.
Yep.
And like you said, they have gained success, but that doesn't mean people that are lesser known aren't successful or don't have value. Mm-hmm. So just take what you can and leave what you don't like. Mm-hmm. Simple as that.
All right. The day I applied positive reinforcement training, aka clicker training, to my horses was the day the scales fell from my eyes. So that's the day that we stopped being blind.
Yeah, the blinders came off.
Yes. I found Peggy Hogan and worked with her helping others use R+, is that positive reinforcement?
Yeah.
Training with their horses. The only time I use a halter is when the vet comes. Wow.
Oh.
I trim their feet with them completely loose, no halter, no ties, just me, my bridge sound, tongue click, and their food. I've trained one of them to achieve 2 trick titles so far through Do More with Your Dog.
What does that mean?
It's been a fascinating journey. What?
What?
The power of positive reinforcement training? Pretty cool that this person got to the spot where they could trim their feet with, like us right now, just raw dogging it.
I mean, yes and no, because sometimes you don't need to have food all the time, It can be bad too.
Yeah. Is that what this style of training is?
Yeah.
Clicker training?
That's what she's saying, is that they just get fed and treated for doing good behavior.
Clicker training, that's what I've never really gotten into that, but that's interesting.
No, it's not often that you hear much about it for horses. You see it more for dogs. Positive reinforcement is when you're adding something to it. So you're giving them something. So it's to create you're reinforcing their behavior by giving them something.
Oh.
So it can be food, it can be positive praise. That's what it is. Negative reinforcement is where you take something away. So you take food away if they did the wrong option. You remove care, not care, but you know what I mean? Let's say for a dog, they bite you. Now, instead of adding anything to reinforce a different behavior, you just remove yourself from the situation because that makes them upset, you know. So that's what positive versus negative reinforcement is. It's just the adding or taking away of something. You're reinforcing the behavior by adding something, or you're reinforcing the behavior by taking something away.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's interesting. And I mean, there's a million ways to skin a cat.
Yep.
And I don't know who Peggy Hogan is, but she sounds like a real...
I've heard that name. It's super familiar.
Yeah.
And I can't rack my brain, but I've definitely read about her before.
Yeah. I'd be curious to see, like...
how that all works.
My horses love snacks.
Peter!
He would sacrifice me for a snack. But I think the positive reinforcement training is probably all about, like, timing and placement, and I could...
Yep, having the right.
Yeah, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's amazing that we can do so many different ways of doing things.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, you know, if you don't need a halter and you don't need a bridle and you don't need anything, good for you.
Yeah, hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah, brother! Oh God, we're wild. Okay, before my hand becomes an ice cube, I'm gonna say the last one.
Okay.
All right. That people are not looking and judging you as much as you judge yourself. This changed not just my horsemanship, but also my day-to-day life. People do not pay attention to what others are doing at every moment of every day, but we ourselves are.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a good one because, you know, you sometimes get overly focused on what people might be thinking or feeling or looking at you. I do that all the time. Bad habits. Ego.
Yeah, ego.
Check back to our ego episode.
Yeah. And we will remind you guys about what that was about. Anyways.
So I think, yeah, I can understand how that changes your perspective on life. Like being able to understand that, you know, people aren't looking as much as you think they are. And they aren't paying attention to what you're doing at every moment of every day. And we are seeing our mistakes. We're seeing our strengths. Most often seeing our mistakes. Whereas a lot of people don't even notice.
Yeah. Well, you've made it through not one, but 2 episodes where we talked about experiences that changed your perception. And there was quite a few reoccurring themes, which I think is quite interesting.
And it goes to show that things go in a circle.
Yeah. Yeah, big ol' circle.
I don't know where you're going with that, but okay.
I don't know. I thought it was quite interesting how many people had experiences, how negative behavior taught them something about horses, and there was a lot of stuff based around communication and how incredibly intuitive horses are. And I mean, we always kind of talk about that, but I felt that it was really fun to actually hear some stories and experiences, and it just kind of, you know, I mean, if you haven't had an experience yet, or
the key word is yet.
Yet, exactly. But I feel like a lot of people can relate, or they have similar stories. I mean, listening to some of what we read today, there was quite a few where I'm like, oh, I've had a similar experience, or oh, this has also kind of happened to me before. And I mean, not in the exact sequence, but I just think it's quite interesting how horses are kind of teaching all of us similar things, and how beautiful that these creatures who don't speak English at all have been able to impact so many people.
I think the other thing that I noticed is a lot of people explaining how their growth came as they've aged.
Yeah.
Because it's always like, oh, as a kid, this is what I thought, or as a teen, this is where I went, and as I've gotten older, I've learned, which just goes to show experience really is the telltale educator.
Yeah, trial and error and experience is everything. And how many of you too, I just want to like acknowledge how many of you too had like you learned something about yourself, or you were doing something that was causing
that was causing
a negative behavior in your horse, and the fact that you felt comfortable enough to share that vulnerable teaching, because sometimes admitting that you're wrong is scary, but using what you've learned to kind of help others. And if you've submitted something for this episode, whether or not you want to see it that way, you have contributed positively to the horse community by learning from your mistakes and sharing your experiences with us. So
people can learn faster.
Yes. So thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you for being so brave and sending in these confessions. We know this was a big and sometimes messy, but important conversation. So we are really glad that it happened, and we're glad that you felt comfortable and safe enough in our space, in our podcast, to share it with us. And we really appreciate you feeling safe with us, because that makes us feel like we're doing the right things.
Yeah, we're doing our job. So thank you again. We want to continue to invite you guys to comment and get involved with the conversation here on the Uncinched podcast. So if you maybe missed out on this episode and you have an incredible experience, or an experience that changed your perception, and you want to share it, in our link tree there is still the anonymous confessions thingamabobby, what do we call it?
Form.
Yeah, there's still the form in our link in our bio. We're not taking it down. So if there's something that you feel really called to share,
please do.
Yeah, we just want to invite you to do that. And I mean, who knows what you might end up on an episode. It might inspire another episode.
Yep.
We just really appreciate you getting involved here with us. So
yeah, we really do want to interact with all of you guys. As you saw, we get a little bit invested with different stories, but we're trying really hard to kind of create an open, honest, and thoughtful community that gives you information, gives you fun, gives you laughter. And so if you are wanting to engage with us further, you can follow any of our socials. We have TikTok, the Tiki Talk. We have Instagram, and then obviously here. And we'd love for you guys to subscribe to our channels so that we can grow and understand, maybe what you want to hear, what you don't want to hear, and be better suited for you guys as we go. We're also pretty hilarious on Instagram. We just recently posted quite the interesting video. I was not a part of said posting. I was informed through text saying, go look at this, and I died laughing because of embarrassment. But in a good way. But we like to have fun here, and we hope you do too.
So once again, keep the confessions coming. We love hearing your voice and thoughts. And don't forget to tune in to next time, because next episode on Uncinched, we are trauma dumping.
Dun, dun, dun.
So if you remember eons ago, like, was it the second episode of this season?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Back in like May, June?
Yeah.
Yep.
We had an episode called A One Horse Tale, and it was a Loki, Taya, aka me, trauma dump story. And
Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry.
If you want to check back on that story, it is still up. Obviously, all of our episodes are, but it's called A One Horse Tale, and it has everything to do with horse death. And I know that sounds really sketchy and like awful right away, but we have some good tips and tricks. And
we made it a learning experience.
Exactly.
So next time on Uncinched, it is Britain's turn to trauma dump.
Oh God. Yeah. So this is, I guess, what we would call my story. We're gonna get deep and spooky because Halloween's around the corner. But my story is going to be talking about chronic illness and how it can affect horsemanship and your ability to even see horses, and how it can really impact and shape your life. And hopefully I won't cry. That's the big hope. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. But if Taya could get through hers, I think I can do it too. So if you're interested in hearing that story, please stay tuned for our next episode, and we cannot wait to bring it to you.
As always, thank you for listening to the Uncinched podcast, and I guess we'll see you next time. Bye!
Bye!